The gloves are about to come off. It is time to drop your buffs. Drop, come on in. Drop your buffs. You are correct. Yeah. Bring it in. Switch it. You are correct. You drop. Stop.
Sorry, Annalise.
Survivors ready? Drop your buffs.
Welcome back to Drop Your Buffs. I'm Sean Ross, and we are continuing our coverage of Survivor Australia versus the World with another exit interview. We, of course, got to talk to every player out on the island the day after they were voted out on Drop Your Buffs on Channel 10, which you can catch up on now. Highly encourage you to go do that. We're getting rave reviews about that. But I wanted to talk to these people all these months later after the show has aired to ask them some more questions about the game and have them reflect on their experience. So today I was able to speak to the latest person voted out, the Rebel Queen, the Princess. What other names did she have? The Black Mamba. So I got to talk to Kirby, and I'll let you hear that conversation right now. Hi, Kirby.
Hello, how you going?
Good. I have to say, this is the most devastating loss of the season for me. You're such a big character on this season, and you brought so much heart to the season. So very sad to be talking to you again here, but I have so many questions to get into now that the season has aired. I have to ask you, in your final words that we saw, you said you were shattered, and I can confirm you were shattered when we met you after Tribal Council. How are you feeling all these months later and after watching the show?
Yeah, I at the time I felt the way I felt, and everyone could see it. And it was probably the first time that I had felt that sort of intense emotion. And it was my sister's wedding that day, and I was adamant. I was like, she has supported me to come out here to play this game on one of the most important days of her life. Where, I was a maid of honor, and I can't go out on this day. I know, I just remember thinking about it throughout the day as well. And and I think that's the underlying emotion. And then feeling like I was being so genuinely honest. And then, everyone's got to play the game. So it probably took me until the next night, and then I got over it, and I was excited again because it's still, the game goes on.
Do those feelings come back watching the show?
Yes and no. Probably not the feeling of being shattered or blindsided in that. That's a part of the game. And you obviously want to be on the right side of the blind side. You never want to be on the back end of it. But yeah, I think it's an incredible season. We've got an incredible group of players that know how to play the game. And, last night I was a student amongst the professors. Those women are gods, and they know what they're doing, and they know when to strike. And, I was a princess right then in that moment, even though I was playing a big game. There's so much that I'd learned from them.
Yeah. I want to talk about Sarah and rewind a bit here, because you had the Cookies and Cream alliance with Sarah and Shaunie. And then we see Sarah sort of suddenly start to question your loyalty to her or her loyalty to you. It was all a little bit muddled from the audience perspective. I couldn't quite understand where she was coming from. What was your perspective of how your relationship with Sarah deteriorated?
Well, it was really, I think, challenging from my understanding. Shaunie was in the same perspective. So yes, I worked with Luke a very long time ago. So I used to load bomb in the ground, and he used to drill the holes for me to be able to do that. And then we'd sit in crib rooms and just chat. But it wasn't a lot. But we've always had a pretty respectful friendship, but we weren't tight. And when I got out there, I felt the relationships from a personal level with David and Janine, Luke and David and Sarah and Luke, Sarah and Jeanette, all of them. And Shaunie and I were sort of sitting on the outer. But because of that, I never really wanted to commit 100% to any of the Aussies, because they could turn around and say, well, we know each other, we don't know her, and that could be an easy out. So I said yes to them all. I said, yes, I want to work with you all. And Sarah was really outward because she wanted to play a different style of game. And I'd not watched her. And Shaunie had sort of given a bit of an insight to that. So yeah, when she was saying ride and die, my comparison to ride and die is Ree. Ree would never, ever say my name, and I would never say her name. And if I did, I think when I did, I told her. So it was just a very different standard for what that looked like. And the David vote, the first time I flagged it with her, she was like, no, I don't think we go that big too early. And I was like, yeah, okay. And she sat on it, and we were sitting around the fire, and she came to me, she goes, okay, I think I'm okay with that. I was like, great, like, let's do it. But all of that argument, when George threw me under the bus, and I caught wind that Sarah had mentioned it somewhere, because there was no way that David would have known, because Luke and Janine weren't going to say anything either. So I think that's sort of where it shifted. I watch the actions compared to the words. So it doesn't matter what you're saying. I want to see if it matches.
Right. I want to fast forward to another relationship, and that's with Parvati. You two had insane chemistry to watch. It was so exciting to watch. And you had this playful and flirtatious energy. And I think that that's so important on Survivor because, first of all, I think queer women are underrepresented on Survivor, let alone queer women interacting in this flirtatious, fun way. So I think it was such a great storyline to have here. But I'm curious from your perspective, how much of that for you was real and how much of that was gameplay?
I naturally, anyone who knows me knows that I flirt anyway. And maybe I do it in a different way than Parv does. And Parv's renowned for it, from what I understand. And what I've been told from, my superfan best friends have just given me the download with that. And I do that naturally as well. But I'm able to compartmentalize, but probably not as well when I was out there, because she's such a big player and Sarie's such a big player. I wanted to play with the big players who weren't on the Australian side, because they weren't as tight in their friendships outside of Sarie and Parv were, but that it didn't lengthen out to Luke, Janine and Sarah and everyone else. And definitely, genuinely, there's a certain level of chemistry, but she's a legend. She's going to do what she needs to do to play her game. So I was a student in that moment.
So you knew that they were the greats, but you admittedly hadn't watched Survivor, didn't watch Survivor between Titans versus Rebels and this season. So what did you know by the time you met them? Surely the Aussie tribe had been talking about the World Tribe. So what was sort of the down low that they gave you, whether it was George or Sarah or whoever it was?
Yeah, they said that Sarie had this insane social game and, allows you to feel safe and, to be able to draw those players in to tell her everything. And Parv's incredibly smart and obviously flirtatious and does what she needs to do to be able to make magic happen. In saying that, they all wanted to work with them temporarily and then get rid of them. In my mind, I'm like, well, let's walk together. I don't care if I don't get any votes against them both, but playing with big players like that, that's how I learn. And I feel like it's exciting. I feel like, we can do big things together. The reason, and this you probably may be thinking, well, David's a big player, George is a big player. They just weren't going to work with me in the way that it would be equal or that we can sort of bounce off each other. So it was just impossible. So that's why I was like, oh, they're well connected. Well, David was really well connected, but George was a little more difficult to work with.
Right. Did you have any sense during the day that Janine was coming for you?
No, not really. But that scramble was like what we saw on TV was obviously me following or looking like I was following Parv around, but I was being followed by everyone. So if I went and spoke with Cass, Janine was just off the back shoulder. If I was talking to Parv, Janine was just off the back shoulder. And I should have picked up on it. And it wasn't probably until Tribal, I leaned over to Shaunie and I asked her, who am I voting for? And I said the same thing to Janine and I said the same thing to Parv, because I felt like something was off. And I think there was in the background, my hands were on my face and I was like, I might be in trouble here.
And what was going on with Shaunie? Because we saw this great alliance come together of you and Shaunie and Suri and Parv in the previous episode. And then in this one, she kind of just goes back to Luke and says, okay, I'm ready to do Australia strong again. So what was your read on where Shaunie was sitting? And were you in on their plan to vote for Suri in any way? What was that sort of continuing on like?
Yeah, well, I think Shaunie and I had this unspoken agreement that she's free to do what she wants. I'm free to do what I want, as long as we weren't writing each other's names down. And that was, yeah, again, it was unspoken too. But Luke, Shaunie, and I were working together, which is why Luke didn't really say my name much or push for it, which is surprising because I probably had burnt him twice, for my own benefit without considering, where he was sitting. Although I did tell him the truth all the time. I was telling him prior and then following it up afterwards. And yeah, but when Shaunie went back to Luke, I was adamant at that stage. I was like, well, I told Sari that I would never write her name, and I told Parvati the same thing. And I've always been unsure of everyone else in my Aussie tribe. So that's just now where I've got to sit, which is why I was for them. Yes.
What role did idols play in your game? Because they certainly played a huge role in your game in Titans versus Rebels in so many ways, direct and indirect. And of course, Luke has an idol and Parvati has an idol now and Cass has an idol. Were you aware at all of where these idols were sitting? Were you looking for idols? We didn't really see a lot of that content with you.
Yeah, definitely look for idols, especially on the Australian tribe. But history says I am no good at finding them. If only I had some sort of tracking skill in my natural ability as an Aboriginal person to find them. I just don't. So, yeah, we figured with the caliber, or I figured with the caliber of players out there, there has to be one or all of them in somebody's pocket. And to be fair, if I did ever find one, I wouldn't say anything to anyone as well.
The mark of a true Australian Survivor legend is a nickname, right? After this season, I think you've come away with many. You were the Rebel Queen, the Princess, the God Slayer, the Black Mamba. Which one is going to stick, Kirby?
Oh, the first time I've been given a name was from Parvati with the Black Mamba. And I guess it sort of makes sense. And I do play in a way that is a little aggressive with a big strike, and I guess that's maybe the student in me. So as I build my game, maybe that might shift. But the God Slayer is just for one player, isn't it? And the Black Mamba's for everyone. So maybe and hopefully that might stick.
Good choice, because that's what I think should stick. It's iconic. Yeah. And you've got the Black Widow, the Black Mamba. I mean, nobody better could give you a nickname than the Black Widow.
I don't think so either.
So having said that, will we see the Black Mamba back? I feel like you have unfinished business. Would you play the game again?
Yeah, I do feel like there's a lot of unfinished business. I think I learned a lot from Rebels and Titans, and that's a very different game with 47 days. And you're out there, you have so much time to sit with people on the beach and connect and, build those relationships, go in and out of playing aggressive and then stepping back because there's big numbers. In this game, I went guns blazing and played an aggressive, excited game. And yeah, playing with these incredible players, like the way Luke went about his business, and he looks like he's fun and just doing his thing, but there's a lot of thinking behind that, and keeping low key and being that larrikin while having these deep conversations. That's a great way to play. And I guess Janine striking when she needs to strike, she's an incredible businesswoman for that reason. She just knows what she's doing. So there's definitely a lot that I've learned, and hopefully one day I'll come back as a bigger, badder version of a Black Mamba.
I can't wait to see it. Kirby, thank you so much. You were absolutely outstanding this season. I truly think you're the breakout character of the season because you bring the gameplay so hard, but you also bring this heart to the game that I think is so needed. And it's the true sort of signifier of a Survivor legend. So you're certainly among the legends now. You know, you can try to separate yourself from Parvati and Suri as much as you want as goddesses. You are a goddess. So thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to watch you play.
Thank you so much, Shaunie. It's an incredible game, and if I get to play again, I will play such a different version.
I can't wait for it. Okay, bye, Kirby.
Yeah.